Take a look at the scene.
Well, seems like we all learned a little lesson this weekend. At least I know I did.
Me too, Jerry. Me too.
This is not the Rick we're used to. Rick is starting to change. He has decided to care, and this change will be dangerous for him. By the end of season 6, we will witness a new Rick. Hello everyone, welcome to Film Dive. Season 6 of Rick and Morty starts with Rick getting sent back to his original universe. He comes face to face with his past. He sees how unhealthy his grief was and how running from what happened to him only caused him pain. And he surprisingly decides to let go. When Morty tells him,
I don't know him. You're my grandpa, Rick. Rick and Morty, 100 years.
he decides to choose the family he has over his original family that he's lost and spent so much time to track their killer. Right after that, Morty's consciousness gets swallowed by a video game and Rick goes into the game to save him. This causes Rick to be trapped in the video game with Morty for more than 50 simulated years, and this time makes Rick to respect and love Morty.
What do I have to say? I love and respect you, okay?
And in episode 3, the cloned Beth comes back and causes some disturbance, and we see something we've never seen from Rick. He tries to be a good father and actually talk to Beth. After moving on from his original family, Rick decides to finally face the consequences of his actions. The two Beth situation is his fault, but he would never try to make it right. But now he decides to do it. If evil Morty is in fact Rick 137's original Morty, which is kinda impossible now because our Rick didn't even have a grown-up Beth. But if the evil Morty is somehow related to Rick, how is Rick going to interact with him now that he is starting to change? Rick Sanchez, a guy who would ruin a world just to have fun, now is being hit by the consequences. He realizes that his grief caused his entire neighborhood to suffer in a time loop. He realizes not telling Morty how much he loves him caused some parts of Morty to prefer staying in a video game over being in the reality with Rick.
We're divided because some of us don't trust the guy. What happens to that part of us when we're all back together? One Morty indivisible, under a cranky old bag of dicks? A man you can lock in a box with 5 billion pieces of his own goddamn flesh and blood for 50 goddamn simulated years and never hear him say, I love you?
And he finally realizes that by not wanting to be a bad father and cloning Beth, he caused existential crisis for his daughter. But in all of this, we see Rick do the right thing in his own way. He moves on from his original family, tells Morty he loves him, and tries to be there for Beth when she needs him. This will either end with a happy Rick at the end of season 6 or a heartbroken, dangerous Rick who realizes he's gone too soft and decides to take back control. Either way, Rick is starting to change because the consequences of his actions are catching up to him. And it's not only Rick who is facing the consequences. His family also has to face life. Summer and Morty did kinda confirm my theory by saying,
Damn, you really came of age this Thanksgiving.
How old are we? We've had a million Thanksgivings.
they're not acting like a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old. They've seen it all. Their words are wiser than my grandfather's. But they decide to do the opposite of what Rick does. They decide to ignore everything and play video games.
What did that mean?
We refuse to care.
But what your family does directly affects you, so they have to face life as well. Oh, Jerry. Jerry has a good way of facing the consequences.
What the fuck?
That's a bug! Dad rolled into a bug!
He tries to bravely run away from the problems, but even Jerry decides to face it at some point. The Smith family is closest to a happy family than it's ever been, but as Beth says,
Eat your ice cream however you want. Nothing good lasts forever.
something tells me the Smith family is going to take a big hit, either by the end of season 6 or in future seasons. But this could be the calm before the storm. Don't forget that we saw Morty's original Rick, and despite our Rick letting go, he pretty much poked the bear first, this Rick will definitely come back and do something. I'm guessing he will cause the Smith family to fall apart. Rick is starting to care again. He's trying to be a father, he's trying to be a grandfather, and all of that would probably cause him a huge amount of pain in the future. He will realize that not caring means having no weakness and become even more distant than before. But how do you think season 6 will end? Do you think the Smith family will remain happy? I don't think so. Please comment your thoughts down below. And with that out of the way, I see you guys next week.